Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our community conversation about libraries now and libraries post-COVID-19. Thank you. Let's get started. We're going to introduce our very distinguished guests, our library enthusiasts and experts today. Let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Teresa Flood. I'm the Deputy Director at Euclid Public Library. I've been here for 20 years, and I'm glad to be here.
Great, thank you.
Hello, my name is Caroline Peak. I currently serve as the manager of the Collinwood branch of Cleveland Public Library. I've been in library services at Cleveland Public for 17 years, but have a career in the community for over 30 years.
Thank you, and thanks for coming. My name is Karen Murray. I will be your moderator today. I've been in the library field for 14 years, and I am an adult reference associate.
My name is Casey Armstrong. I am the director of the Euclid Public Library. I've been in libraries for 16 years. I also serve as a board member for the Ohio Library Council, which is our statewide advocacy group for public libraries throughout the state of Ohio.
And thank you. Again, I say welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get started with our conversation. What precautions have the libraries taken during this pandemic? Can you please share your insight on what's being done at your libraries and in your communities?
I'll hop right in. I think that libraries right away were first making sure that we were informed. So right away, once announcements started happening in March, we were very quick to respond. But we were responding with information. So closing our buildings, making sure that while we were closed, we still provided services to the public. But also while we were closed, we were revamping our buildings, adding the protective barriers, making sure that we had the gloves and the masks. And even today, please know we are socially distanced. But just making sure that we knew everything that we could health-wise to make sure that not only the public was safe, but our staff members were safe as well.
Yeah, East Cleveland Public Library did the same. Basically, once we closed down, we started making preparations on how we will, get the library, the facility up to code and make sure that when the staff did return back, that everybody be safe and, won't worry about, catching the COVID-19.
In Cleveland, first of all, after we closed, it was about information and sharing information with not only the staff, but with the public. So they created committees to focus on different areas to make sure that we were covering all of the angles and looking closely to the CDC guidelines and things of that nature. So we have definitely prepared ourselves. We have identified the number of people who can be in our branches, have a schedule for cleaning, and put up barriers, necessary barriers to protect our staff and the public. So I feel very safe going to work as I comply along with my staff. And we do the temperature check every day as well.
We do that here at the East Cleveland Public Library as well. And even though the libraries were closed, just be assured and reassured that the worker bees were still working during that time to make sure not only the community was safe when they re-entered our buildings, that the staff was safe as well. We want to say thank you for that. Okay, thank you, ladies. Let's keep this conversation going. How has the pandemic changed libraries and services? How has the pandemic changed your library as a whole and services during this pandemic?
Well, I can share that because we've been really working hard to figure out and to redesign our services for our youth and our public. As I was mentioning before, we are now looking at the schedules with the remote learning and having opportunities, and we're also bringing some different programming via Zoom. And our story time, we have, at the Collinwood branch, we have a Facebook page, and for the first time today, we're recording story time for special needs parents and their children. So we're really, and I talked about this quite a bit, about having some mystery boxes and things of that nature that we put together, items for children and families and adults, that they can come in and design something and then bring it back to share with everyone. So we're really looking at that really strongly as to how do we redesign our services to work in the COVID-related environment.
Thinking out of the box is necessary right about now. And so that's good information. Ms. Flood?
We're doing the same thing, such as story time. We started that back in April, you know. So we can still engage our patrons and our residents, but story time, different types of creative art shows, what is that, the different programming, like sewing and making t-shirts, things of that nature. Now that school is back in, my question is, because I have talked to several people about tutoring, and how can we implement that inside our virtual learning with the different students and everything. I'm not sure if any of y'all have started that or not.
Oh yeah, we do. We're very similar. We have online tutors that we've brought on board that will be in session in Zoom with our families. But there's a program called tutor.com, that's a database that libraries can purchase on behalf of their community, so they can offer tutoring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So,
With our partnership with Cleveland State University, we are currently starting on Monday, that we have tutoring from 4 to 6 each afternoon, that they go through Zoom, and they just kind of come into, we're all learning this new environment. We don't know how to do breakout rooms, and they can go in there with a different tutor based on their school age group. And then we also have it from 10 to 12 during the day. Again, we're still trying to look at the schedules, and I know each school district is doing a little bit differently, and the school age group around the scheduling around remote learning. So we're trying to match our tutoring opportunities with the remote learning schedule.
Ms. Murray, I just want to add that to your initial question about what are libraries doing differently. I think that before COVID, long before COVID, even back in 2004 when I started my library career, we had been talking in libraries about how technology was making us change. We knew that there were no longer CD players in cars. We knew that magazine print subscriptions were declining. We knew that the plain dealer, they decreased the subscriptions on the plain dealer. We knew this, and we were having conversations about this, but we started just taking baby steps because we were kind of afraid, we were nervous. Change is hard, but COVID has forced us to take that Band-Aid off and fully embrace technology.
Yes.
We are now not only doing Zoom, Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives, we're involved with Twitter. We're rethinking every last service that we offer at the library. So not just programming, but wireless printing, how people engage when they come into the space now. So I challenge all libraries. I know that this is a difficult time for a lot of families in our country as far as work and folks are dying. But I also challenge us to really look at this as an opportunity to really take advantage of meeting the needs of our patrons in a new and a different way. And we can do some phenomenal things, but we just have to be willing, like you said, to step out of the box and really challenge ourselves to do something new.
And I just want to say, I feel we have the leadership and the experience in the county, and not particularly, I didn't get a shot, but East Cleveland, all in Cuyahoga County, we have that to be able to move forward and make an impact, as libraries often do. Here's another question for you. How are library staff dealing with and adjusting to the pandemic changes in your environment. Because as the directors and the leaders make these changes, you have to pull along and engage your staff. So how are they making the changes? Are they receptive? Please
Well,
share.
I just want to first say thank you to the staff at Euclid, East Cleveland and Cleveland, because I know that it's not easy sitting back, waiting for somebody else to make the decision and not always having all of the information. So I certainly appreciate the patience and willingness of our staff members to give us the time to make those decisions. And I'll say that I also appreciate that the staffs at our various libraries are boldly honest with us and telling us what they need to make them feel safe, or to make sure they're safe, not just to feel that way, and to make sure that they can do their jobs. And so we've had so many online chats with staff members. We've done surveys getting their feedback. And so that is so helpful as we make decisions. And so I know sometimes it's really hard if you think, okay, well, I'm just a library associate, or I'm just whatever the gist might be. I don't think they would listen to me. I don't think they would take my advice. And it's like, no, please speak up, because something that you might be thinking about or noticing is just, that might be the perfect idea to help us to get to the next step. But yes, the staff at my library in particular, I think we just really fully opened this week. So Euclid is fully open to the public. And they have really received it well. And the reason they received it well is because we didn't rush. We made sure we followed the science and the information given by the CDC, and so that they could feel safe and confident when we open to the public. So that, like you said, Ms. Flood, they did not worry, because that's what you don't want people to worry when they're at work. And I have been, our staff did a welcoming video. So if you're on YouTube, go on our page. And they used the themes, the Hamilton, one of the Hamilton musical songs. And I have staff like tripping through the library, like singing this song, saying, welcome back to the public, from our pages all the way up to almost every layer of our staff is involved in this video, but somehow they did it without me. I'm like, why am I not in the video? But it's such a wonderful thing to see their excitement, their joy. And I don't think they would be willing to do those types of things, to really step out of their comfort zone and sing if they didn't feel like we were doing the right thing.
I know before we opened, we made sure that we contacted our staff, had a staff meeting to address any questions or concerns that they might have had, correct anything that we didn't have in place that they felt that we should have in place. So, but right now, I think our staff is comfortable, they happy, they feel safe. We constantly clean. We shut down as well as for one day, as like most libraries, and do a deep cleaning. You know, machines and equipment and stuff get cleaned every 15 to half an hour. We still only have lobby service as of now. We're looking for October sometime to open up a full service, but we're just gonna wait and be patient. And you know, if it did, we did. If it don't, but we will be opening up full service soon.
I'd like to say, Ms. Flood, thank you for your modesty. But the librarians and the leaders are doing a magnificent job, and the staff here came back resilient. Our leaders came back willing to do the work, working overtime, whatever it took to make the community feel comfortable, as well as the staff. And so and the staff were glad to be back. Yes. So that's always a plus.
Yeah. We didn't get no video though.
It's coming.
Cleveland did a video as well, and our branch was featured in part of it. But the thing about it is, as we talked about, Ms. Armstrong talked about, is communication. Cleveland Public Library partnered with Metro Health, where our staff received a lot of, we have Teams. It's a form of virtual learning as well, where they were able to listen in on those, ask questions, and you're right, they were very honest and blunt about what they really wanted and needed, and the library, reflected that in the things that we did. And we phased ourselves in with curbside and walk-up service, and now we're in, having patrons come in. And I can say for the Collinwood branch and the population that we serve, our staff, the patrons relate more to the people that they see first off. Sometimes I have to tell them I'm the manager, and they're like, well, I want to see them. So we know that they're our frontline workers, and if they're feeling safe and welcoming, then it's going to reflect in how they provide services to our communities, and that's what we want. And so we have put in place the quarantine, 96 hours of quarantine, where if there was a problem, and myself as a manager, help supporting the staff when they had a person come in with fines, or some of our elderly patrons who were very afraid to come out. If their books were overdue, we made sure that we, corrected all of that. So providing the support to staff as well as feeling safe is really one of the things that has worked for us at the Collinwood branch.
I just want to jump in one more time, because one of the things that have really impressed me about the staff is that I am getting to see talents that I didn't know existed. As our staff has started the online story time and online programming, I didn't know certain staff members played the piano. Certain staff members had these culinary skills that they're demonstrating to us, because these programs are being filmed in their homes. And I've just been so incredibly, I'm just impressed and amazed, and how they're connecting. So the culinary program that was done, the librarian was doing a program just showcasing our cookbooks. And so he was using the cookbooks to kind of demonstrate the recipes in the books. And I just thought that was so fascinating. And I was like, he got so many YouTube views off of that program. But so it's bringing people in, and then we are connecting with people that are not even in our service area, outside of Cuyahoga County, outside of the state of Ohio. That is so fascinating to me, that when people chime in and say they're making comments, and they'll say, well, where are you guys from? And they'll start telling us, I'm from Illinois. I'm like, what? How in the world did you find out about us? But that is fabulous to me, because it's just showing to me that people are seeking the support of libraries. Mm-hmm. So whether it's your hometown library that's right up the street from you, or the library that's in a different state, they want our assistance, they want our expertise, they want the connection with us, and so we need to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to meet that need.
And just to piggyback, because of remote learning, you're right, it opens up that field for a lot of opportunities for children that would never have had that. And they can use that as part of their requirements for school now. Yep. Because it has a lot of math, measurement, reading in there. So that's one way we're adapting to some of the services that also meets the needs of our children in school, remote learning.
But you think that if it was a normal story time, mm-hmm. and you were in the library for a normal story time, right. in the story time room, there would be no piano.
Right. It opens up. You know what? When one door closes, how many more opens up?
Absolutely.
And it's bringing out a lot of creativity mm-hmm. in all of us, that skills and ideas, because we are really thinking about that every day. How can we make this, remote, and how do we look at it differently? And I think it's helping us.
I have to laugh too, because some of our male staff members who have been doing these online videos have had to learn about makeup.
Oh, okay.
And we've all had to learn about lighting.
Yes, I was going to say
and just things that, when you go to library school, we'll say, well, they didn't teach me that in library school. We can definitely say, when I went to become a librarian, I was not focused on, how to present yourself in front of a TV audience or an online audience. And so I think it's really brought about some new opportunities for us to really learn and grow, and it's just been fascinating. And yeah, I laughed when one of the male staff members was talking about his bald head, and he was like, the light is shining off my head. And we were like, we kept trying to maneuver around to get him into the right position so that the light wouldn't be so bright. But yeah, we're definitely learning and having a good time.
And those are all skills that we can add to your resume.
Right.
Transferable skills, should I say. Thank you. And you mentioned that the librarian that did the cooking demonstrations was a male.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I would like to piggyback on that and say how nice to have a male prepared meal for you. Okay, thanks for sharing, ladies. Moving right along. Is your community or are your community partnerships and collaboratives working well with you during this time, during the pandemic? And if so, can you share some of those partnerships?
Well, I have to speak up about 2 partnerships because they involve all 9 library systems. And so the first one is One Community Reads. And so the libraries have been working together for quite a few years and doing a joint countywide reading program where we choose one book and we ask everybody to read that book. We actually did our 2020 One Community Reads program in early March with Eric Kleinenberg. And so we were all like, okay, we're done. It worked, congratulations, we'll start picking out the next book. And then George Floyd was killed. And we came together as libraries and said, we cannot be silent. We have to participate in these conversations. We ramped up the One Community Reads program again with a focus on racism in America.
Very intense, very
We launched the
intense.
program. Every library is now offering some type of online program, author event, book discussion to make sure that we're connecting with our community about this important topic. And then the new partnership that we're all, I believe, involved in is PCs for People.
Oh, yes. All of us are
Where we are,
Yes.
where we are, and this has been a wonderful partnership. An agency is repairing, refurbishing computers and allowing us to help distribute desktop computers, laptop computers, and mobile hotspots to our community members. And with so many children, as you say, are at home learning online, parents not having access or being able to afford to pay for internet services, I think this has just been one of the library's strong areas to make sure that we're helping to distribute these devices. And I'm hoping that this will help us to really launch the conversation about what do we need to do to make sure that broadband, that our entire community has access to broadband services regardless of COVID. And that
Regardless of financial.
regardless of financials.
Status.
Just, we cannot allow this to happen again where our community does not have access. So, yes, 2 partnerships I'm very proud of.
Yes. Ms. Flood, would you expand a little bit on the PC for People's program? Because I know this library is doing a wonderful job with that.
Yes. Well, we have an ambassador, her name is Sarah Green, and she has a very good, close relationship with PC for People. So what we do, we receive PCs for, our community residents. Some of them can purchase them for a discounted price, and some families are eligible for free computers. We also, circulate hotspots, so if they don't have hotspots and if they don't qualify for PC for People, they can come to the library and pick up a hotspot as well. But PC for People, I think we've been in partnership with them for the past 3 years. So, and it's been very successful.
The rest of us are just joining on. The rest of the libraries are just kind of catching on.
Get in
So,
where you fit in.
It's wonderful. I mean, they literally get to keep the devices for 2 years. So you get your laptop, your hotspot for at least 2 years. And so
Wow.
you don't have to return it.
Yep.
Your children can access the internet, they can do their homework, they can do whatever they need to do. And I just, so thank you, East Cleveland, for leading the way. And making sure that the rest of us were aware of that when COVID happened so that we can quickly gear up our organizations to be involved.
Well, Cleveland Public Library has a wonderful partnership with the Cleveland Food Bank, where we, for several years, have been doing after-school snacks for children, but we're still doing it, continuing even during COVID, to do the grab-and-go meals for the children. And they've even allowed this time for a child to take maybe more than one meal, because we know that they may need to have a meal later on for dinner. And so that has been really, really wonderful. We of course have partnerships with the arts community, where they come onto our Facebook page and do programming via Zoom. And we do have democracies of some authors coming up in December. That will, I think it was December 4th. So check out our website, and you'll see more about it, where you can sign in. The first one is going to be this Saturday, and so, but it just to mention just each of the branches. You know, Cleveland has many branches, and each of the communities have partnerships within those communities. So even with our broader partnerships throughout the district, we have those. And in Collinwood, we have really worked with the development corporations and all of the business entities to make sure that, you know, particularly our schools. So we have contacts with emails with our teachers that we have maintained that, and now we're doing virtual learning with the class right now, that, you know, we just kind of have a personal relationship. So some of them are personal to the community, and some of them are broader throughout the district.
Ms. Flood, I'm just gonna put you on the spot, because our most important partnership this year has been the census.
That was my next question.
You guys have some wonderful signs out front, so why don't you talk
Oh
about
yes, I think we're all in that one. And of course, voting,
Yeah.
legal women vote.
Well, that was my next question. Thank you, ladies, for jumping ahead. Very good, very good. My next question was, what are the initiatives throughout the county that libraries are engaged with? And census is one. Can you elaborate on that, Ms. Flood, in regards to how many activities we've had surrounding the census as one of the initiatives?
Wow, we have had plenty of different activities and programs.
Yes.
Trying to promote the census, you know.
Yes.
For some reason, East Cleveland census, I think all of all the counties, all the cities, census are real low right now. So we are really pushing to get all the residents, you know, just to fill out that form. You know, it's 3 simple ways you can do it. You can either do it by phone, by your computer, or mail it in. But we need the census taken, because they do help each community, you know, provide programming, you know, for residents, and a whole lot of different other opportunities for the community to thrive.
Yes.
And if we don't get that information from the residents, we will be losing a lot of money coming to the community. For
It is
residents.
$1,800 per person for 10 years.
Yes.
So 100 people do not take the census in your community. That is $1.8 million.
And 10 more years before you have the opportunity to
Yes.
complete that census.
Yes.
It only comes out every decade.
Yes, and so, and I have to stress this point, because I hear people all the time talking, oh, I want to help the homeless, I want to help seniors, I want to help kids, I want to help those in need. And we miss the prime time to help them every 10 years. Because the census dollars go to help our roads, our children, our seniors, support benefits like SNAP. So if you really want to help those in need, you truly say, I want to help, please complete your census.
Caroline, would you care to share?
Well, I certainly agree, but and we know that as a community library, we have to build up that sense of trust. And when you talked about staff before, our staff plays a key role in how we engage the community. Because our branch, I would have to say Cuyahoga County is one of our biggest one, because many of our patrons depend on the services of the county. So we try to attach those services that they need with the food stamps and all of those, you know, Ohio means jobs and all that to that. Because when they come into our branch, many times their hierarchy of need is, I gotta get this, my water, my gas has been turned off. Right now, there is some relief in renter, you know, with people being evicted. So And I know there's a broader picture, but for them, that's what they have to do this day, get this faxed over to someone so that this can come. So we try to make that connection to those, to those services that they need and asking them to complete it.
Yeah.
And I have been able to get many, just recently, the last 2 weeks, a lot of people registered to vote because we've been open. And us being open plays a key role in how we are able to do that engagement with us. So when you talk about our library is necessary, yes, we are. Our services may not be like what they were maybe 20 or 30 years ago, but we are needed in our communities. I can emphatically say that. Before we were open, I had people sitting out front waiting for me to come in and let them in the first day that I was
Let me in, let me in.
Yes, and I think we get out, and they're in the parking lot with, trying to get the Wi-Fi.
I can't tell you how many people called me when we were closed, and they would say, well, can you just let me in?
Let me in, that sounds like a movie.
And that was one time they said, I just need this copy because I need to get this turned on.
Right.
I said, okay, just wait here. And as a manager, I went back in, turned on the machine, and made sure that that person, at least I could go home and know that that person got what they needed. So we are needed, and all of the services that the partnerships and initiatives, we are the place that people go. And in fact, they tell them at all these places, just go to the library. They never say they go to the library
they don't
to
tell you.
use the computer. They just think that we have the answers to every problem that they have. And I have had some patrons afraid to touch the computer because they think it has a virus in it and they're going to catch it. So I'm just saying, we have to educate and we have to empathize and support our patrons because we are the people that they trust.
Right.
They trust us more than they trust a lot of the agencies. So we have a big responsibility to answer that call. So yes, we do support all those initiatives.
Voter registration.
That is my next initiative all the libraries have taken
So
upon.
I believe the last day for registration is October the 5th, and the first day of early voting is October the 6th.
Correct.
So please, we're talking about a matter of days here.
Yes.
There's two things that we're asking you to do.
Right.
Please go complete your census, make sure you're registered to vote, and when you make sure you're registered to vote, double check your address. Make sure your address matches up to what the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections has on file, so that you don't have any problems with your ballot. And check your family. You can go to the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections. All you need is a person's last name and date of birth, and you can see if they are actually registered to vote. I know I've done that for all of my cousins, my kids, everybody I know. If I know your last name and date of birth, I have looked you up to make sure you are registered to vote, because people will say, oh, I'm registered, but they may not realize that they have been, their names were removed from the rolls, because if you don't vote in 3 consecutive elections, and you get that postcard in the mail from the Board of Elections, they will take you off. So check, because you may be assuming that you're registered or your family member is registered and you have been removed. So don't take it for granted.
A lot of good information. Show of hands, if your library is working with the initiative to encourage voting and get the information out about voting and early voting, raise your hand.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're all on the same page. And last but not least, if your library provides meals for children during this time, please raise your hand.
So ours is a little.
Uh-oh. We got a hiccup.
We're in between the Hunger Center and the high school, which both provide meals, so we're kind of.
So you're good.
We can't have a third location
I
on the
understand.
same, within the same distance. So, but we do help them. We do provide bags for them to be able to give the meals on the go.
Yes.
So we are working with them very closely to make sure that those who are picking up have all the information.
So you qualify by location.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a conversation with that. And it was like, okay, but I get it, because they're trying to space them out to make sure they cover the whole county. But it's another thing I want to say about the census before we get off of the census.
Yes.
So a lot of people use the census to do their genealogy research. And so most black people can only go back to about the 1880 census, maybe. For most black people, the 1890 census, depending on if you lived in Alabama or South Carolina, your census records were caught up in a fire and burned. So truthfully, you only can go back to the 1900 census records if you're tracing your family. It is so absolutely critical for us to be able to document our family history, because that was taken away from us for so many decades. If you are a black person in this country, I am begging you to participate in the census, because your family counts, and it matters that your name is in that written record. My sister's name is Kelly. She is named Kelly because my grandmother's maiden name is Kelly. Kelly goes back all the way to the 1870 census. So we are able to track my great-great-great-grandfather in Alabama all the way back to the 1870 census. I can see that in the 1870 census, he could read, he could write. I can see who lived in the household with him.
Wow.
So it is so important to know these details about your family. Now that's my grandmother's side of the family. Unfortunately, on my grandfather's side of the family, we stopped real fast. We happened to get to like 1910, and that's it. And he was born in 1911, so he wasn't recorded in the 1910 census. So the first time he appears is in the 1920 census. So please, 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 not only because we lose money, but it's so critically important for our African American history in this country that we are documented. And that one day, in 72 years, because that's how long it takes for them to release the census results.
Yes.
72 years, your great-great-grandchildren will be able to look back and say, wow, look at my great-grandmother Casey, look at her go. Look what she
She was a dynamo. I want to be a dynamo someday.
Like she was alive, she lived in Ohio, this was her family, this was her home. Those are important details.
That's important, and I would like to piggyback on that saying, sharing our story by writing books. We need African American writers to step up and become authors.
Absolutely.
That's another good way to relay information about your history and your family.
Yeah, it's not as easy though as filling out the census.
Correct. Correct, Mundo. Okay, moving right along. Good conversation. Thank you, ladies. Do you feel outreach is still needed in the communities? And if so, how would you continue outreach services at this time?
Oh my goodness. One of the things that I do appreciate about COVID is that sometimes we do get too tech focused and we forget about just some of the traditional ways of connecting with people, like the US mail. During COVID, prior to COVID, we stopped mailing stuff to homes. I want to say for the past 15 years, I don't think any libraries were really mailing things to every home in your community. We just weren't doing that. We were expecting people to go online or Facebook, email. COVID forced us to start mailing things again to make sure that every home got the information that they needed. But we also, Euclid Public Library has an outreach delivery service. So we go to our homes. We go to our daycares and preschools and nursing homes. And so we had to have a lot of conversations about how to do that safely, especially with the nursing homes. But I was just so proud that we were able to continue meeting the needs of our customers who could not, and prior to COVID, could not get out of the house. So,
Shut in.
It's making me tear up a little bit because they call the patrons regularly. Mind you, a lot of families could no longer go check on their senior anymore. They couldn't go check on grandma or grandpa. And so to have somebody that was physically calling you from the library, mailing you stuff, saying, hey, we're thinking about you, making sure that you were still, like we started the contactless delivery, We just leave it on the porch so you can get your stuff, or we swap it out, do the 96-hour quarantine. I've just been so pleased that we kept that service, because we were starting to have conversations about, do we still need to keep it? Because it's expensive. You gotta pay for the vans, you gotta pay for insurance. It's expensive for libraries to be able to do that. And I know a lot of libraries stepped away from doing that, but I'm hoping that COVID will help us to recognize that we need that face-to-face contact. We can do it safely, but we need to be out there in our communities providing outreach services.
In Cleveland, we have homebound services, and we've extended that to additional individuals, including the nursing homes. So, and the other part of that is, even though, you know, I'm a people person, so anybody knows I'll find a way to talk to some people no matter what. But we've been using, I attend a lot of the Zoom meetings, and still talk about services at the library, as well as we also publish in the, we have the Collinwood Observer, and I know you have the Euclid Observer as well. We publish an article every month in that publication, and I work with a council person who still send out a letter to all of the people, so I may add a paragraph or something there. So it's still, you know, I know the Collinwood community had more block club meetings than any other, but just still working with the CDCs and the people who are still mailing. We piggyback on a lot of services. And then just even going back to Facebook, because a lot of the communities have Facebook pages that we'll publish our information. And now that we have our own, and we do also, now people can update their library cards, and children can even get library cards now via our website. So it's just making people aware of the services, and including our college students who can do that remotely. Because I did get a call, somebody was working on a paper and needed some articles, and I was able to direct them to our database in order, and they needed a Cleveland library card to access that particular database. So we're still letting people know what is still there via any vehicles that we can, and still email is a good piece that we're doing as well. I have an email list to the teachers and other people, my contact emails, and they'll share it, and they'll share it with their, you know, their different people. So emailing and Zooming. I'm a Zoom queen.
Well, there are many different types of outreach, and I like the fact, not COVID-19, but the fact that we serve our meals in front of the library at tables. So people see you out there, they're engaging, people are driving by, blowing their horns, and we, you know, throwing our hands up. And as well as in regards to the census, us making telephone calls to residents in Euclid. And you don't know how many times somebody, thanks for calling and checking on me. Hey, I called you in regards to the census, but I also called to say, hey, we're here for you. We just called to see how you were doing. So there are many ways that we can reach out to our patrons and residents.
That's right.
Ms. Flo, would you like to share something?
Yeah, our outreach services is a little different. Our outreach services consist of training, technology training. We had like 5 facilities, such as senior citizens, nursing homes, adult care, where our staff members would go out to that facility and teach computer classes. Unfortunately, once COVID hit, all that had to shut down. We tried to, you know, make contact with them, but unfortunately, a lot of the centers are not accepting, you know, people to come inside their facilities. So that's one thing that's weighing heavy on our community right now, because they're not getting the experience or the training they need to be able to access our online resources.
Yes.
So that put us inside of a, you know, a little predicament, because how are they going to receive our information? You know, so the good thing, mailing. So from the census, we did receive like over 4,000 or 5,000 mailing addresses that we can send our information out, our newsletters, our programs, to inform our residents of what's actually still going on and how they can access our digital resources.
Yes. More good information. This will go on for days. Thank you, ladies, for sharing. Now, do you consider libraries more essential today than in the past? Do you consider libraries to be more essential today than in the past based on the pandemic?
You know, I have to say that I think that each generation, the library is uniquely positioned for that time. I say that because I was doing some research on diversity in libraries, and in 1972, the Euclid Public Library's annual reports are wonderfully online for everybody to see if you have some time. But in 1972, they created an initiative with the Clean Foundation to get more African Americans involved in the profession. They had scholarships, they sent staff members to school. I was born in 1973. So they started that initiative in 1972. Casey came along in 73. So by the time I was old enough to go to the libraries, I could see black people in the libraries. I could see people who looked like me. But that initiative in 1972, if not for that initiative in 1972, I wouldn't be a director right now. So they were uniquely positioned in their time to make some strategic changes for their communities in the 70s and the 80s, and we are the same now. So it's like, what decisions are we making now that can not only protect and support the people who are alive right now, but the people who will be coming down the line in 20 years. So that's kind of where my thinking has been. It's like, I am so grateful for the library's Cleveland. What are you guys, like 100 years old? How many years are there?
150.
150 years
And we
old.
are.
Well, we're 151 now.
100
How many years are we, Ms.
I
Flood?
think it's 104.
104, Euclid is 85 years. We just celebrated our 85th anniversary.
baby in the
We
bunch.
baby in the bunch. Because we used to be a part of the Cuyahoga County Public Library, and then we had it become independent in 1935. But like I said, every decade, the libraries have been there to meet the needs of their communities. And so sometimes we think we're doing something so unique and special, but if you go back into the history, I love reading the history of the Cleveland Public Library. They had a radio station at the Harvard Lee branch back in the 1950s to keep people informed about the war.
Wow.
Right. All these things are happening. When we talk about we should do gardening at the libraries, they were doing that way back in the 40s, 50s. They were doing gardens at the libraries, and so this is our season. This is our time, and we don't want to miss it. We don't want to miss this opportunity to truly make a difference, and to know that hopefully it doesn't take 20 years to get more diverse directors in libraries. But to know that the decisions that I'm making today will hopefully make sure that libraries are around in another 85 years, 150 years, 180 years. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, and I'd like to piggyback and say libraries are also functioning as social services today as well, because you don't have a lot of social services communities, centers throughout Cuyahoga County. So we do have a lot to do. And the people that are our leaders now, the deputy directors, the managers, the staff, and what have you, we're not only charged with being trailblazers, but also visionaries in regards to what we're doing that's gonna be around when we're not around. So that's important. Caroline, did you want to share something?
Yes, I think while we always are, for lack of a better word, reinventing ourselves or looking how we need to market to our patrons, I think they're necessary. A story similar to yours. I was born in 1954 in Mississippi, and I could not go to my local library, but here I am, sitting as a manager of a library. So it shows what you're saying, possibilities, and these are the places where there is somewhat of a level playing field that we can influence and support our people in our communities. I think we are vital to that, because if we did not exist, that lady that needed to have her gas turned back on, and just for me to make a copy, and a person like me knowing the value of helping someone in that need, that door could have been shut for her. And so In each community, we serve a different purpose, or we have a different role, but I don't think that we're obsolete, and I pray that we continue to be there for the patrons and the little people and the big people and the small people and the babies that are born today, because we provide those services, whether it's mental health, social services, books, whatever. We're still relevant in our communities.
Ms. Flo, would you care to share could you ever imagine being a female African American deputy director? How did you get involved in the library field? Can you share a little bit about your past?
Yes. I started off as a computer programmer, IT major. That was my passion. That was everything that I just loved. However, when I started working for the library, it became more interesting to me to actually see what librarians actually do. So, but meanwhile, while I held that position as an IT manager for so many years, I had someone whisper in my ear like, well, you've been here for so long, why haven't you decided to go back to school to get your MLIS? And I was like, because I was already in college, again, getting my master's in networking.
Oh, wow.
So I finished that off, and then I said, well, you know what, I might as well go back and get my MLIS. And that's what I did. And while I was going through all that and learning, I had the pleasure of working besides very influential people. Miss Hawkins, Mr. Rees, Sheba Marcus Bay.
Trailblazers.
Right. and now Carlos Latimer. But when I went back, it was an eye-opener, because I actually thought, since I was IT, that, well, what librarians do, they just go and, answer phones, go put down some research papers, Well, how hard is that? I'm programming a computer. I'm doing God's work, man. Come to find out, it's a whole lot more, a lot more. And
Those connections.
Right. So I decided to pursue that, and I graduated, and I was like, I want to be the director one year. I said, first I'm going to start off as a deputy, but that's how I got here. But I would like to mention one thing that we are doing is that our community, we're about to implement, is preserving our history. So we have scanners where patrons will be able to come in with photo copies of, or photo pictures of their past, of their grandmothers, or anything exciting that's at their household that took place, where they can scan it, and then we'll have it uploaded onto our server and displayed off our website.
That's really great. I love to hear that, because so many people don't know what to do. Great aunt passes away. What do I do with these photos? What do I do with these documents? Don't throw them away.
Right. And so everything is being digitized, so they'll have a copy for themselves, and then also be housed on our server where they can access it, and their family members, now and even like 10 years or 15 years from now.
That's one of my favorite projects of the Euclid Public Library is their digital public library, and they're archiving not only pictures but yearbooks and just all these. I'm a history buff, and so sometimes I'll just be nosing around and looking at stuff and learning more about our community. I just learned, by the way, even though they're closing the IX Center, like I didn't know what the IX Center I didn't know it was built during the war, that it used to, be this huge factory, and, we're losing, unfortunately, a lot of that history, so it's important that libraries preserve it and help to educate people about their communities and the people that live in it.
Okay, ladies, it's been a pleasure. We'll be wrapping this up very shortly. Would anyone care to share any famous last words of inspiration for our community and our viewers?
Famous last words.
Right.
I don't think today is my last word.
Right.
Let's hope not.
I like a little bit more time this word.
Well, I just mean at the end of this.
I guess my words of advice is please don't limit yourself. I know that in school, when I was growing up, people always say, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they will always say to match what you want to be to what you love to do. But as a kid, I loved to read, but I couldn't figure out how that would be a job. Like, I was like, heck is it gonna be a job? So I wouldn't tell people. Like, they were like, what do you love to do? And so I would come up with all these crazy answers. I want to be a teacher, I want to be a lawyer, those type, the standard. And I don't know why I didn't think that you could work in the library. You can work in the library. They have so many different careers in libraries, not just a librarian, but the library is a great profession. But it never dawned on me that libraries actually get paid like you work. And of course, a lot of librarians read. And I was like, that's it. Like, I was grown when I figured that out. And so, but it's never too late. Like Ms. Flood said, she went back to school. She got 2 master's degrees now. So please don't limit yourself. Or let others put limitations on what you want to do. If there's something that you want to do in life, go for it.
Okay, and I would like to say I got into the library profession because I always liked education and working with children, and most of all, words, using their words, and switching the words around and things of that nature. And what I would like to share is do the things that you love. And you can incorporate that even in a library field, which is why I love our library, because it's very unique, because I take the things that I love to do and I'm able to do programs for the community with my love and joy for doing things. Caroline?
Well, you know, Cleveland's motto is we're the people's university, and you can learn anything in libraries. You don't have to, I tell people, this library card is free, but it has more value than anything else you could purchase in your life.
Yes.
As a person who loved to read and wanted to make a difference and have service to the community, my role in the library allows me to do that and open the eyes and serve our children and our public every day. And I feel so blessed and gifted to be able to do that. When I get up and come to work every morning, I don't feel any trepidation. It's in the sense of, what's my new adventure today? Because I learn something new every day. So this is a university, has many subjects, many opportunities, and please use it, because if we don't use it, we may lose it, and we can't afford to do that.
Thank you for the rhyme. Use it or you may lose it.
Right.
We didn't know you were a little librarian.
And didn't know it.
And always plan for success.
Yes, in the end. Thank you. Ms. Flood?
Mine will be sharing. I was born and raised in East Cleveland, so I went to Prospect, Kirk, Shaw, all of them. And my one thing is, no one never really shared all the information about public libraries. Okay? This is the time to be able to share. We can do it digitally, we can do it by word of mouth, flyers, newsletters, but a lot of people do not know the type of information and resources that they can get from your public library. Mm-hmm. And if you do not spread the word and share that information, people will never know. So.
Very good. I would like to thank Cleveland Foundation for the community grant to make this event possible. And also, I would like to thank our distinguished guests from the library world for coming out to share some valuable information. We have a little gift for you all.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Right.
I thought it would be some books.
We want to do something, as much as we know you love books, we want to do something a little different for you today.
Oh, there's a napkin here with hand sanitizer.
Wow, isn't that beautiful? Now this, I don't know if I'll share with my staff or not.
I would also like to give a shout out to the person who uniquely did these individual baskets. Thank you. And everybody.
Oh, you guys are real fancy.
This flood.
Did you say that the Cleveland Foundation sponsored this program?
Yes, they did. There was a community grant we applied for. We were fortunate enough to get it.
Okay. I just want to also thank, since you're thanking the Cleveland Foundation did provide an $85,000 grant to the Cleveland Public Library, the Euclid Public Library, and the East Cleveland Public Library, and we have been using that money to support the census efforts since March. So thank you for hosting this program, and then again, thank you for the Cleveland Foundation support for our efforts to make sure that everyone counts.
I echo those sentiments. This is beautiful. It's been a wonderful opportunity to share. Thank you.
Okay. We also like to thank our director, Carlos Latimer, who couldn't make it today. And thank you so much again, ladies. Be safe out there. Bye.